Traders at Axis Bank say investors are maintaining a cautious stance while cherry-picking high-yielding instruments. However, offers are concentrated on the long end of the T-bills curve. Chukwunonso Ifejiofor, Treasury Team Member at Axis Bank, joins me now for a midweek market update. Chukwunonso, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Let's talk through the highlights of activities we've had since last week's primary market auction, the OMO auction we had, and then what's happened since Monday up until now.
Okay, thank you for having me. So I will start with the market opened on a quiet note for both the bonds and the T-bills market. But midway through the trading session, we saw the CBN come in to issue an OMO auction. They had stated that about 300 billion naira will be up for issue, but however, about 520 billion was subscribed. With the release of the OMO auction results, what we had seen was that the long end, which is the 364-day paper, closed at 17.5%. That was a 25 basis points decrease from what we had seen from the auction held the previous week, which closed at 17.75%. And the CBN sold about 270 billion on that maturity. For the mid-tenured maturity, which is the 184-day paper, we saw rates close at 13.5%. That was a decline of about 50 basis points from what we had seen from the OMO auction that had held the previous week. The CBN sold 15 billion. For the short end, that is the 91-day paper, what we saw was a decline of about 5 basis points, and the rates printed at 10%. And the CBN also sold 15 billion on that note. Post-auction, what we had seen was a market rally. The market that had been muted before then started to rally. We saw those papers, especially the long end, being traded actively, and the rates was at about 10%. And this also filtered into the bond markets, which had been trading on a quiet note before then. We saw an increase of about 15 basis points on the long end, which is the 2053 papers. That is the 29-year maturity. And it traded at about 15.75%. We also saw skeletal activities around the 2037 papers and the 2050 papers, which traded at about 15.1% and 15.3% respectively. Going into today and as we go forward into the week, we expect the bullish sentiment to persist even as we look towards the coupon payments that will come in tomorrow, and also keep, even as investors still maintain a cautious approach as they pick on high-yielding instruments.
Yes. Now, Chukwunonso, wrapping up the conversation now, let's talk about the latest inflation figure and the monetary policy leanings that we might likely see come to bear. Some analysts are saying in the year 2024, we'll see rate hikes of about 250 basis points. For you now, how is this likely going to rub off on investors and the decision-making process?
Okay, for inflation, we had seen the inflation numbers coming on Monday, and the inflation figures printed at 28.9%. That was a 0.7% increase from what we had seen in December. The likely impact of this is that we had seen the Apex Bank states that their leaning will be towards interest, will be towards inflation targeting. And from what we have seen from the budgets, the inflation target is about 21% for the year 2024. So what this entails is that we might see the Apex Bank maintain a hawkish stand, just as you have mentioned. Some parties and some analysts are saying that we should see about 200 to 500 basis points hike in rates if the Apex Bank is to meet our goal of being at an inflation target of 21% to manage price increases. On the investor and investor expectations, normally what happens is that when inflation numbers goes up, we expect the yield numbers to also follow those. However, investors will also keep an eye on other metrics such as the market liquidity, the market liquidity, and also the body language of both of the Apex Bank and then the DMO too. So those factors will come together to decide on.
Yes, we'll have to leave the conversation here for now. We still await the details of when the MPC meeting would hold, and also we're waiting for the first quarter bond calendar. But on that note, we'll leave the conversation here for now. Thank you so much for your time. And that was Chukwunonso Ifejiofor, Treasury Team Member at Access Bank.